Sometimes it feels like the quiet moments in the day barely get a chance to be heard. This is 10 Better Minutes, a podcast that shares a few recent stories from the world that often go unnoticed, but matter all the same. Here, you will find a steady space to hear about real things happening without ignoring the harder truths. For a little while, the stories you hear will remind you that the world is more balanced than the news often shows. We will begin with a story about a 73-year-old volunteer who has spent years visiting a neonatal intensive care unit, offering comfort to the smallest and most fragile patients. At 73 years old, Dave Whitlow volunteers at Children's Hospital of Richmond at VCU, visiting the neonatal intensive care unit twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 8 years. During each visit, he carefully prepares by putting on a gown and gloves, leaving his phone outside the unit so he can stay fully present. Then he cradles 5 or 6 infants, sometimes as many as 8, while the staff continues their careful work nearby. He listens first. Dave asks the nurses what each baby is receiving, and he pays attention to the small signals around him, including the monitors that track oxygen saturation. He also watches how he holds each position, so comfort stays gentle and safe. Before he returns every baby to bed, Dave repeats a simple, steady wish. Grow strong, grow smart, grow kind. What makes this routine so uplifting is that it is consistent. In a place where families are under constant strain and staff carry intense responsibility, Dave offers something ordinary and dependable. Warmth arrives in the form of a familiar voice, careful hands, and predictable presence. And over time, the connection goes both directions. While the babies receive comfort, Dave says the NICU has become deeper than volunteering. It has become a place where he feels grounded, reminded that love can be practiced, not just felt, and that showing up faithfully can matter every week. There is something steady and hopeful about people turning what is often treated as waste into something that truly helps a household. Today, we are looking at one initiative in Alabtong, Uganda, where cleaner cooking fuel and earned income started with a simple idea. Lucy Everlyn Autumn founded the Moyao Africa Initiative, and then she did the part that always matters most. She trained real women on real steps. After she returned to northern Uganda, she saw that charcoal was still what most families used for cooking, and she also saw the worry that came with fewer shea trees and not having dependable alternatives. So she helped shift the focus to discarded shea husks. Autumn and her team worked with women in Alabtong savings groups, teaching them how to collect the husks, crush them, mix them with clay and cassava flour, mold the briquettes, dry them in the sun, and store them for use. One participant, Catherine Akello, is a 47-year-old mother of 5 from Abwak village, and she said she no longer wants to spend money on charcoal when emergencies hit. When her family needs support, making briquettes from what is already there helps hold things together. Now the initiative employs 6 staff and works with more than 1,200 women, and it is planning to expand production year-round with new equipment. ATM is aiming to increase shea butter output from 600 liters to 6,000 liters, with equipment that costs about $530 United States dollars. You can feel the hope in that kind of progress, built one batch, one household, one savings group at a time. It is easy to think conservation is only about protecting something in the wild, but sometimes it is also about redesigning the ways we move through it. This story follows the patient work that is giving North Carolina red wolves a better chance. So far, this year, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Red Wolf Recovery Program reports 4 litters of red wolf pups born in North Carolina. 1 litter arrived on private land through the Prey for the Pack program, and 3 litters were born in the wild. In those early months, between 12 and 16 pups survived, which may sound like a small number until you remember what it means for an endangered population to keep its young alive. By July, There were 22 known wild red wolves across the Alligator River and Pocosin Lakes, national wildlife refuges, and nearby private lands. Still, the biggest threat remains right up against human roads. Since 2013, vehicle collisions have been the leading cause of death, with 8 red wolves killed in the past 6 years, mostly along Highway 64. What gives this moment its hope is that the response is practical and shared. North Carolina Governor Josh Stein signed a budget allocating $10.2 million every 2 years for wildlife crossings, including crossings under U.S. Route 64. More safe routes, fewer sudden tragedies, and more of those pups making it through the hardest part of life. When we build pathways for animals to survive, we do more than reduce risk. We make room for recovery to continue, one litter at a time. Some problems in healthcare feel stuck, not because the science is impossible, but because the right samples and the right methods never quite meet. This story follows one woman who refused to accept that limitation. Reedy Tarial started with frustration after being told a fertility test was not possible. Then she chose a different route instead. In 2014, she founded Next Gen Jane with biologist Stephen Geyer, turning menstrual blood into something researchers could reliably study. They built a home collection kit that seals menstrual blood from tampons, and they mailed it in for laboratory testing. The process uses a machine smaller than an espresso machine to retrieve viable blood samples in seconds, so learning does not have to wait for clinics, procedures, or time. From there, their work became more focused and more promising. Next Gen Jane identified a biomarker panel for endometriosis and validated it in an independent patient cohort, reporting accuracy over 90%. Since endometriosis affects roughly 1 in 10 women of reproductive age, this kind of progress matters. The company also pointed to a difficult reality. Diagnosis can take 7 to 10 years and often involves surgery under general anesthesia. Even more, the method became a door to broader questions. By building a growing menstrual sample library of more than 2,000 samples, their researchers began exploring how tissue repair works and where these insights might lead. It is hopeful to see how one person's "not possible" became a collection system, then a biomarker, then a research foundation for future understanding. Sometimes the most hopeful climate solutions do not feel like inventions at all. They feel like careful reuse, done with patience and craft. In Winterthur, Swiss architect Barbara Buser added a 3-story extension to a former carpentry factory, and the plan began with what was already there. Researchers from the Zurich University of Applied Sciences found the project used roughly 70% reclaimed materials and cut embodied carbon emissions by nearly 2/3 compared with conventional construction. In that addition, called K118, tightly compressed straw bales sit behind gypsum fiberboard panels, local clay shapes the walls, and 80 salvaged windows were taken from a building slated for demolition. It was recognized widely in 2021 when K118 received the Holcim Global Gold Award. Buser also treats reuse as something bigger than one building. Her Basel Botile Bourse material exchange, founded in 1996, now operates in 16 cities, helping components move from one project to the next. She has even sent over 10,000 windows to Ukraine, extending that single act of salvage into new lives elsewhere. What lingers is how this approach turns construction into a conversation with the past, not an interruption of it. In Basel, the restored Markthalle Market Hall, built in 1929, serves more than 2,000 meals each day through about 24 vendors. When communities can keep what matters and build greener with what remains, hope starts to look practical. As always, I have a grounded little tip to help you reset your mind and bring more ease into your day. If you have ever opened a link just for a second and suddenly looked up an hour later, this one is for you. Today's tip is about using read later tools to make your media intake more intentional. Here's the idea. Instead of consuming everything in the moment, you create a small pause between interest and attention. When you come across an article, video, or post you might enjoy, hit save. Add it to your read later list. Then you decide when you will come back. That is the whole shift. You are no longer letting the internet choose your next thought. You are choosing it. Try setting 2 simple check-in windows, like once in the late morning and once in the evening. During those times, browse your list and pick just 1 or 2 items. Outside of those windows, let the list do its job. Your curiosity can wait. Over time, you will notice something calming. Your attention feels less scattered, and your media feels more like a choice you made, not a tide that carried you away. Well, friends, we have reached the end of today's 10 Better Minutes episode. I hope those stories left you with the same feeling I get when I step away from all the noise, which is that decency and kindness are still here, even when they do not always make the headlines. If you want a few more grounded bright spots to come back to, please follow or subscribe. New episodes are posted every day, and it is a nice way to clear your head a bit. And if you have a good news story link or something positive happening in your own community that others may have missed, share it in the comments. I really do read those. This is Ian Rhodes with 10 Better Minutes. Take care, and I will see you tomorrow.